Lovely. Got a Fairlane here, ladies and gentlemen. It's an NF, it's a 5th month 1996. With an absolutely gorgeous roller cam 302 V8, and you can see how well it runs. Absolutely flawless. Clean engine oil, it's been serviced recently. Lovely clean coolant. It's a good indication that the car's been looked after quite well and serviced regularly. It is down on some condition though. The bumpers need repainting, and there's odd bits of bodywork here and there that need doing. Look at that engine. I love a V8, and I should because I've got 4 of them. Now, this doesn't need much for roadworthy. It's got new tyres on the back, although they are retreads, but everything else looks fairly good on it. Importantly, most of the stuff inside, or actually all the stuff inside, seems to work. We're selecting gears well. The trip computer's working. The auto climate control, we go for auto. There we go. All this seems to work well. The vacuum motors in the dash are working. I can hear them, I can turn the fan down, that's all working. AC I think needs gassing. Rear emitters coming on. Oops, hang on, I'll just turn that down. But that all seems to be working well. This car's showing 246,000 Ks, not a big deal. I've seen these things doing 400,000 or 500,000. Power windows are all working. Everything seems to go really well on it. Now, these cars aren't worth an awful lot of money. So hang on, what about the cruise control? Yep, the cruise control's coming on too. This is a neat car, I'll tell you what, I'm not that unimpressed with it at all. These cars, there's electric mirrors. Sorry, I'm just getting carried away and doing a bit of an evaluation. Look at that mirror over there, look at that, hey? Beautiful, working really, really well. These cars are also good if you've got a Falcon and you want to relocate the driveline, interior, all that sort of stuff. It all bolts into a Falcon. And if you go to a wrecker and buy a 5 litre with an automatic, this is an AODE, a 4-speed automatic transmission, and you buy a conversion kit, it's $1,500 just for that kit. There's an awful lot on this car that's good. It's nice and straight, it's a great colour, white never dates, but it does need some bodywork. But look at that engine. Oh, the power steering pump's knackered too. The power steering pump's got an oil leak. They're a plastic housing Thompson C2 pump. So, there you go. What are you doing?
I'm hungry.
You're probably frightening the rabbit. Right, we've got to start doing some roadworthy work on this. Now, I've taken the power steering pump off. There's a hell of a leak under there. Charlie, can you stop for a moment? Hell of a leak, and it's running down. Looks like it's coming off the cross member. I thought it could be a rack or the high pressure line, but it's invariably the pump. Now, just doing a few roadworthy items. Brakes look pretty good. Generally speaking, if the friction material is as thick as the backing plate, we're good, so that's nice and roadworthy. I'll check the minimum thickness of these. I know the earlier ones were 22.3, not sure with these cars what it is, but that's certainly roadworthy there. There's no issue with struts leaking, anything like that. That looks pretty good on that side. Charlie. This side, oh, it's not so good, but it's a similar sort of thing. Not worth machining these, I don't reckon. I mean, you can machine them, but it's $70 each for the ABS type discs. It's pretty cheap. So $200 will put new discs and pads on. These are still roadworthy though, so I'm not going to worry about that. It's got nice Munro shockers there. So that all looks pretty good under there, all things considered. Aside from that oil leak, it's pretty manky under there, you can see from the oil leak, but otherwise we're looking fairly good. Here's the big brother of that engine. This is a 351 on an engine stand. Had a bit of a nasty bit of work. We'll just start him up. One thing that's worth investigating is this sort of like rusty discoloration around here. I just want to have a look under here to make sure I'm not basically labouring under a misapprehension. I've got myself a really bad car. If I have, it's not the end of the world. I just won't bother with it. Yeah, it's the first thing people see. It's just surface. I don't know why it's done it. It's lovely under there. It's like new. I'll take that trim off there and take a look too, I think. It'll still be held on by a clip up there, but it'll allow me to take all these out. I have a good sticky under there. That's like new under there. Hang on. And we can see how good it is under there. There's a bit of grot and dirt and all that sort of stuff, but there's no damage from rust or anything. So there are little telltale signs of sort of discoloration there, which I reckon most of that'll just rub off. But it's there's little telltale signs, but it's not bad at all. It's pretty good. Tyres don't look too bad. There's a bit of wear on the shoulder, but there's plenty of tread. And if you look at the wear indicator there, we're well off the wear indicator. So these tyres are good. They're roadworthy. The rear tyres are new, but they're retreads. That's not always a good thing, but at the end of the day, they're roadworthy as well. Under here looks pretty good. All the bushes look sound. This gaiter or boot, if you like steering rack boot, is started to perish and there's cracks in it. That's not roadworthy. The other one's actually got a split halfway down it, so I think we'll change those. They're only relatively inexpensive. We just take off the tie rod ends, count the amount of turns so we can get our alignment back the way it was, and we can replace those. Now this is a 6-cylinder car, and the power steering type, or the pump type, is a Sagnor. Now unfortunately these don't fit the V8 car. These ones use instead Thompson. And the Thompson, I'm going to put it in the shed in a minute. The lighting's better out here, which is why we're in a trailer. The Thompson, that's the actual pump. There's a pressure relief that screws in here, and that actually holds the reservoir on. That sort of fits over like that, and there's an O-ring here which seals between the pump housing and the reservoir housing. Now what happens is these things can crack. These aren't very good, but this one looks to be in really good condition. Now have to be careful of that because it could well be brittle, given that the car's done 240 thousand Ks. But the seal to touch is rough in places, and there it is there, and you can see if I do this, I don't know if you can see that, but it's actually perished. So we need to get a new O-ring, stick it on here, and then we can reassemble it. Now when we put these O-rings on, we never use grease. Grease does not mix well with automatic transmissions or power steering systems. To lubricate that seal, we'd use Vaseline, Snow White petroleum jelly, and that'll be fine. Now whenever I see little bits of surface rust like this, and on these bolts, it always makes me a bit worried that this car's sort of lived near the sea or whatever. I've taken the plenum chamber off and having a good look in there, and it really does look pretty good. There's nothing untoward. It just seems to be edges here and there, and bolts that don't look too flashy. I've taken this off also to repaint the wipers. They look a little bit horrible, and also the bloke who had it before me has done a buff job, and he's filled all this up with bits of the buffing stuff, so I can hose that off and clean it out with a toothbrush. All the sills, everything looks really, really good on this car. The rear tyres are also new, but as I said before, they are retreads. They've even got the seams and everything still on them, and so that sort of looks okay for roadworthy, but it's not my choice. I don't like retread tyres much. I'm also going to change these struts. You can see the angle there. It looks pretty terrible. It looks terrible, and the other one's the same too, so I'll change those over. These can be bought very cheaply online. I think $18 a pair plus $9 postage or whatever. Very, very cheap. One thing I always like to do, particularly with Falcons, is take this off. I'm tipping there's going to be a stack of mud behind here. You just sort of pry these tabs over and remove it, and it's always a good idea, if you do own a Falcon, oh my gosh, look at that, to get these out and have a bit of a look. Now this is where they rust. That's what causes rust. There's been this up. You can see there's a huge cake of mud there. Stupid birds. If I get a screwdriver, look at it. Now that is just unacceptable. And what that'll do is it'll hold moisture and really cause corrosion. I'm going to take this rubber liner out too, I think, and have a really good peer in there just to make sure it doesn't cause too much trouble. And look at all that, and you can see in here I've taken the inner guards off, the foam parts, and I'm just going to scrape. Gosh, look at that. Then that actually looks quite sandy. It's quite loamy type of soil almost. But I'll tell you what, this is really, look how clean it is on the inside when you remove all this muck. I dare say that's been there for a lot of years. But I'll tell you what, with that much muck behind there, a lot of cars would have rotted right through. This one is in really excellent condition, and that is such a tribute to Ford and their rust proofing. Similar story on this side, but nowhere near as bad. It's all fairly clean in there. I've just taken a big chunk of nonsense out. So I've got to prepare this bumper for paint, and it's all scratched and it looks a bit manky and all the rest of it, but at the end of the day, it's not gouged, it's not cracked, there's nothing actually wrong with it, it just looks down. So we need to prepare this for paint. When we paint it, we need to rub it right back and use a flex aid in the paint, being a plastic bumper, so that the flex aid will let it move around without cracking. But first off, we need to take some lights out. And the indicator is reasonably simple. Look at these two. This is a new indicator lens. It's been replaced recently, and that's the original headlight lens. And you can see how yellow that looks. They're really easy to fix. I'll show that in the next video, because basically all you need to do is wet sand it with 1500 and buff it, and you'll get it sort of similar to that. There is a kit you can get to repair these. I'm going to put screws back where I find them, so that when I come to reassemble it, it's a lot easier. Now I need to take that out because there's another screw down there, or another bolt down there, and I'm going to use a universal joint to get to it. But this is the only way to paint the bumpers. I've got to do the rear one too, and what that'll do is it'll mean I can get the gun right to the edge and mask it up properly instead of painting it with lights in and this sort of stuff. I can't stand jobs like that because they never ever look good. I should be able to lift it out now. There's a lip under here, so you've got to sort of push the bumper down to get the right lens to sort of sit above it a bit. There we go. There we go. Quite a long assembly. There we have it. And it does look fairly dowdy now at the front. These cornering lamps, the lenses are cracked. This one was full of water. But now we've sort of got it in the stage I wanted, and it also gives us a chance just to have a look around to see the general condition in here. It doesn't look like this car's ever been hit, ever been in an accident, but there's quite a lot to do now. So what's left? Well, we need to paint the front and rear bumpers. We need to deal with those headlight lenses that look so yellowed and so awful. We've got to put the engine back together, get the power steering pump O-ring, get that all sorted out. Some new bonnet struts so we don't have to put this wooden stick here, this broom pole. Clean up behind the guards, get rid of even more of that horrible dirt. In fact, just before I unbolted the guard from there so I could flick it out a bit more, clean all that up, all behind there as well, give the car a good buff, put the plenum chamber back together. There's quite a lot, and we still need to take the rear wheels off and check those brakes and the condition of everything there. But it won't be long before this little guy's ready for roadworthy. And it really is a bit of a shame that most of these cars get parted out. In fact, eBay, or online I should say, not just eBay, there's loads of these motors, about 6 of them at last count, ranging from $450 to $1,400 with looms and transmissions. These things do get pulled apart a lot. A Fairlane is less valuable than a Falcon, and so they always seem to get wrecked first. Now this one is a prime candidate because cosmetically it's down, but it's a great colour and it runs very well, so I reckon it's worth fixing. One good thing about repairing one car that's similar to one you've already got is the fact that you can borrow from Peter to pay Paul. And there's an old indicator lens off this. It's going to look much better with this nice shiny new item off the Fairlane, and by the time I get the Fairlane done, I can get another one. And my garage is full of restoration projects. This pre-war Wolseley, I've got to make a laser cut piece for the frame manufactured, which I intend to do next week, and then we can weld part of that together and fix that. Of course, this XW, which there's a rolling set of videos on, this is also another one that I've got going. This Fairlane, which is at the moment a storage area, it looks terrible, doesn't it? This is the one that I'm doing at the moment. This is a nice quick job. I might also repaint the boot lid as well, because that's all sort of down. But anyway, see you later.